Welcome back to the GCSE Maths Pro YouTube channel. In today's video, we will be looking at finding the coordinates for the midpoint of a line. So you can basically use this equation here, or just try and remember it overall, as how to find the midpoint of two sets of coordinates, or the midpoint of a line. What we're basically going to do is x and y separately. So let's say just x. Add the two x coordinates together from each end of your line, and then half them, or divide by 2. This is effectively the same as working out the average, isn't it? The mean. Add them all up, divide by how many there are. Well, there's only two coordinates. Add the two together, divide by 2. It will give you exactly the middle point. And then just copy the same for the y coordinates. Add them up, divide by 2. So let's actually practice this, and you can see that it will work for all types of coordinates. So for this one, we can actually see the grid, find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line AB. In this case, because you can see the grid, you can obviously figure it out by just looking at it, but I also want to show you how it would work without being able to see the grid. Obviously, the coordinates of A are 2, 4, and the coordinates of B are 4, minus 2. So for x, add them together, divide by how many there are. So that's 2 plus 4 over 2. And then for y, same thing, 4, and then obviously include the negative 2 plus negative 2 over 2. And let's work that out. 2 plus 4 is obviously 6, over 2 is 3. Now 4 plus minus 2 would be actually 2. Divided by 2 would be 1, 3, 1, which you can also obviously see pretty clearly here. But just so that you understand that it does work, that method does work if you can't see it in front of you. Or if you can see it, but you're like, actually I'm not sure if it's that clear, it's not that obvious, and you can use that method again. Same thing again, find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line AB. A, we've got minus 5, minus 4, and B, we've got 3, 2. So add the two x coordinates together, negative 5 plus 3 over 2. Add the two y coordinates together, negative 4 plus 2 over 2. Because I feel like in this case, it's not necessarily quite as obvious where the midpoint is if you just try and look at it. Obviously, you can find it, but you might not think that it's very obvious. You prefer a more methodical way to do it, that's fine. Just make sure, obviously, when you're adding it, it's correct. You can obviously also use your calculator. So we get negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1 for x. And for y, we get the same thing, negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. And have a look here. Negative 1, negative 1. That looks more or less halfway. So now you might get a question just like this, where you can't see it at all. So we're going to practice the exact same method. Find the midpoint of 9, negative 5, and negative 1, 10. Same thing again, add the x's together, 9 plus negative 1, divide by 2, and then the y's. You don't have to lay it out like this, I just like to do it like that for myself. Negative 5 plus 10 over 2. Working them out, I should get 4 for x, and this one actually ends up being 2.5 or 5 over 2 for y. So you can get decimals or fractions, that's also fine. Sometimes that happens to be where the midpoint is. You might not get a question that's as straightforward as literally find the midpoint, but I do find that sometimes needing to find the midpoint of two coordinates happens to come up within a bigger question, so it's more so for that type of scenario. You can see here we've got a slightly different question now. M is the midpoint of the line AB. So we've been given A is negative 5, negative 11, and then M, which is the midpoint, remember, is 8, negative 3. We need to work out the coordinates of B. Do you see how this one's a little bit more complicated? Because we've been told one end of the line, we've been told the midpoint, but we want to find out the other end of the line. So we're kind of working backwards now. Now there are obviously different ways to do this, but if I'm using the same method as before, what I would have done, let's write down coordinates of B, it's just put x and a y, because obviously I don't know what they are. I would have added up minus 5 and x over 2, minus 11 plus y over 2. And what that would give me is 8, negative 3, isn't it? Do you see how I do need to have two separate equations here? I've got the x, in terms of some kind of formula, is equal to 8, and the y is equal to negative 3. So let's write down two separate equations. Let's do x first. We've got negative 5 plus x over 2 is equal to 8. It's the same thing as 8, isn't it? Do you see how now I could just rearrange that? I could obviously multiply across by 2, to get 16, and then just add 5, which gives me 21. And then for my y coordinate, exactly the same thing. Negative 11 plus y over 2 is equal, it's the same thing as negative 3. So multiply by 2, I get negative 6, just be careful of the negatives. Add 11 gives me positive 5. So then my coordinates for B are 21, 5. That's if you want to use the formulas that I've been showing you in this video. Now, obviously, you can, as I said, do it a different way. You can figure out the differences and add them. If you find that easier, that's absolutely fine, as long as you get the same answer at the end. You don't have to use my method, but I just sometimes think that it's a little bit easier to know how to use a formula, but also to know how to reverse the formula as well. Now, my final question is a little bit longer. As I said, you might need to work out the midpoint within a bigger question. So we've been given 3 sets of coordinates, A, B, and C, 10, 4, minus 6, 0, minus 2, minus 14. We've been told that M is the midpoint of AB and N is the midpoint of BC. We want to work out the equation of the line MN. Now, if you haven't already checked out my video on working out the equation of a line just generally, then I will link it down below as well, so we won't be going through that in terms of much detail, but we do need to know it for this question too. Now, in this case, you can also sketch it out. If you find it's helpful to get a rough idea of what they're talking about, you can sketch it out. You don't have to, but if you feel like it's helpful to visualize it, you can figure out, okay, A might be, let's say, about here, 10, 4. B, let's say, is here, minus 6, 0. And then C is somewhere down here, isn't it? Minus 2, minus 14. So then we've said M is the midpoint of AB, so roughly, obviously this isn't to scale, but M is roughly there, isn't it? And N is the midpoint of BC, and then that's halfway, so let's say N is about here. So we've got some kind of idea, and we're looking for the line NM, which would be this one. So you can also sketch it if you find it helpful to visualize, but you don't actually have to. Now, the whole point is we're trying to find the equation of a line. What do we need for the equation of a straight line? That is y equals mx plus c. M is the gradient and the plus c is the y-intercept. We always need to find the gradient first. In order to find the gradient, I need to do the change in y over the change in x. So I'm kind of backtracking in my mind and thinking, right, okay, so in order to find the equation, I need the gradient and the y-intercept. In order to find the gradient, I need 2 sets of coordinates. So I need to know the coordinates of M and N. That's where I'm finding the midpoint, isn't it? So first of all, the coordinates for M would be 10 plus negative 6 over 2, and then 4 plus 0 over 2, which gives me 2, 2 for M. So this is actually 2, 2. And do the same for N, that's between B and C, negative 6 plus negative 2 over 2, 0 plus negative 14 over 2. That gives me negative 4, negative 7. Now that I have my 2 coordinates for the line MN, I'm almost forgetting about the midpoint now, I've done that. We're going on to finding the equation of our line. So to find the gradient, I need to do, as I said, the change in y over the change in x. So both y values, subtract them, then both x values, subtract them, which gives me negative 9 over negative 6, and that would simplify to positive 3 over 2. You can see it's from sketching it, at least I can see that I've done it roughly accurately. I can see it's a positive gradient, so that helps. So my gradient is 3 over 2. So I've got y equals 3 over 2 x plus c. Now I'm missing the y-intercept. I can roughly see where it is, but I'm obviously not going to guess. We do need to calculate it properly. In order to find the y-intercept, I need to substitute in a set of coordinates that are on the line MN. So this is where you can choose. Do I want to use the coordinates for M or for N? You can use either of those. I might just use the coordinates for M because they're both positive. It feels a bit easier. But it doesn't actually matter. So let's do it over here. We've got 2 for y and 2 for x. That would give me 2 is equal to 3 plus c. So obviously if I rearrange that to find the plus c, it's actually negative 1. You can see my graph was fairly accurate. You can see it's somewhere that was roughly negative. So my final answer, the equation for MN is y is equal to 3 over 2x minus 1. So they might have the midpoint as a smaller part of a much bigger straight line question as well. So that is pretty much everything on working out the coordinates of a midpoint. The final video in this series is using ratio to work out the coordinates between 2 points as well. So thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave down below any questions or comments that you might have.